Welcome to the interactive exploration demo for TERRA-REF data sets by the DARPA D3M project led by Purdue University. This demonstration is set up in several different mini applets. You can hover over an applet and each one has a little purpose to explore a different aspect of the TERRA-REF data. This last one actually develops models interactively, so we'll go through each of these briefly during the course of this video. This first one, the purpose is to explore sensor-collected data. In most of these, for instance, you have a simple set of controls over on the left, a little description on the top, and then the visualization section in the center. We pick which season we want to work with. We have season 4, season 6 data. These data sets were derived from a BettyDB query in early 2020, probably February or March of 2020. The season 4, season 6, here is the automatic collected measurements like canopy height and leaf angles. The hand measurements is during August of season 4, where there was the 30 or so hand measurements taken. So let's first pick season 4, and now we can pick a particular day of the season and a trait that we want to look at. And this is showing us all the traits in the location of where they were the field. There's the range along the side here and the column over here. I've been told that this field is upside down, south to north. I apologize. You're going to see that consistently throughout this video. As you hover over, you'll see what the cultivar is, what the range and column is, and what the value is. This is early in the season, so there isn't much there, right? But if we wanted to do something like, if we went to a later day of the season, then we can see that it will show up more. And we can do a left and a right display in order to compare something. So here you see that later in the season, there's more growth. So this can be used to compare the same trait at different times, different traits at the same or different days. And this just allows you to explore at a particular instant in time of the field during the season, what were those measurable traits? So that's a trait explorer. We can also look at the season measurements overall one at a time. We can pick a season, pick a trait for the vertical axis, pick a trait for the horizontal axis, and then either color by anything we want to have, and draw all of the measurements of the season at once on the display. And so here we're able to see, and you can zoom in using your mouse and scroll wheel, and you can offset and look around. And similarly, you can just observe any values and see the values. This just is a scatter plot. It shows overall what were the measurements like across the whole field. It shows that the leaf angle mean tends to be in the middle for when the canopy height is small. As the canopy height gets larger, there's a spread a little bit more. So this is just a way to compare any two variables across different seasons. There's a time series opportunity too. So let's look at during season 6. Let's look at how, and you can pick any cultivar here. Also, we're allowed to sort of guess, by you can spell things and it shows you the ones that you want. Okay, and then you can pick other things. So there's a way to pick a particular trait, a particular cultivar by completion or by picking them off of the display. Now we'll look at how did their canopy height track during the course of the season. So this is a way to look at multiple cultivars, whichever ones are chosen, throughout the season for all the measurements of those cultivars, to take a look at how that tracked through the season. Here's one case where the measurements came up and then there was some dip. Okay, anyway, that's more. I'll leave that detailed exploration up to you because the video will be too long otherwise. This is a scatter plot matrix where we can pick. So I picked the season 4 hand measurements. So therefore, there's only a few cultivars. Let's pick 3 of them, maybe 4 of them. Okay, and we can pick any number of traits we want to compare, but practically the display gets too big if you have more than 5 at a time. So let's pick 5, and these can be any of the traits that you want. You can go back and display them. But this shows, it takes each of those traits and just shows pairwise comparisons across them. So you'll see the names of those traits are here. So each of these plots is here's how absorptions A50 compares to phi NO. So here we can look quickly to see, are these correlated? Are they inversely correlated? Do they tend to vary in the same direction like these two here? Do they have an inverse correlation like these two? And these also, you can zoom into these plots and explore individual ones, and the values that you're looking at will be compared across all plots, so they're always looking at the same range of values at the time. So that's a scatter plot matrix, and allows you to explore a number of different interactions at the same time. If we back up and sort of look at the whole season, we're looking at some hand measurements. Let's run several known statistical methods, Pearson, Kendall, or Spearman, right, for example, on all of that same data sets. This shows us a correlation matrix over all of the variables against each other that are measured. Here, the hot areas are the red areas. That's where there's positive correlation. The bluer, greener is where the inverse correlation between, for example, ambient humidity and the phi and NQ. So they tend to vary inversely. That's a way just to look at the overall data set real quickly and see which things tend to be correlated. Now let's compare how individual cultivars react. We can pick a season. Let's pick 4. And then here, I'm going to just pick a small random number of cultivars. The reason this gives us a small number, and we'll rank them by canopy height for a second, is it runs quickly if you do a small number. You can enter the entire number of cultivars that were on the field at 350 or any number higher than that, and it will display the whole field. But just be patient in that case, because it'll take a while to run. Here, the blue area is when there's a big difference between these two cultivars. These yellow areas is when there's essentially no difference between them. You'll have a diagonal to ignore, of course. But then, so the question is, why were these such a strong difference here? We can pick one to find out, and it will give us detailed plots to show how the cultivars differ. And the reason in this case that there's such a big difference is this cultivar 326 wasn't measured late into the season. So it has incomplete data, and so it's going to vary strongly across all these values. If we pick something over here where there's less, maybe we'll find, okay, in these cases, the entire season was measured for all of them, right? And so there's a smaller difference. But we can drill down anywhere on this chart and see all of the measurements for each of those two cultivars. And if we redo this for a different number, you'll get, you can also change the metric that we're displaying. It's going to re-extract. And we can look at a comparison between two different cultivars based on leaf angle mean instead. So this is going to be the average across the season for those values at first to do this correlation. And then when you pick it, it's going to drill down and show you the values of the leaf angle mean across the whole season for each of those cultivars that you picked. These displays auto resize, so if I made this window a little bit skinnier, then we would see both of them on the bottom. That's that kind of these displays will all try to fit any variety of display devices. It works down to about the size of an iPad. It doesn't work so well on phones. So okay, we did that top K ranking. We pick a model, we pick a season, and then we pick where in the season do we want to look, and which trait do we want to rank our cultivars by. So at the very beginning of the season, 15 days in, here is a rank of the cultivars that are ranked by canopy height. So this is the tallest one at the moment. At this point in time, we can revisit this a week later, and see if it's the same, pick the same canopy height and see if it's the same, cultivar set or a different set that are in the top 10. And you can see it's not exactly the same anymore. These early ones have been passed. I guess that's how races happen, right? But this also allows us not only canopy height, we can pick different values. So we could go back and say at the same time, then let's look at how the cultivars ranked by canopy height and leaf angle mean instead, and see the similarities. So this is a top K ranking system. Right now, top K is fixed at 10. This slider here isn't being displayed in the updates for the visualizations, but we'll work on that. Okay, so let me get to the last app, which is modeling itself. Here we pick a season we want to model against, and then we pick some parameters we're going to run. And I'm just going to run this model real quick here. And this is an XGBoost model that's going to be trying to predict the canopy height value that's in the data set season that we selected. And it will, when it finishes running, it's going to display the average error across the season for each of the locations on the field. This particular model runs per cultivar. So for each different cultivar, there's a model that's looking at only the values of that cultivar and then trying to predict against it. And that gives pretty good accuracy. These model parameters up here are adjustable. And this is my development system on the AWS public instance. These models seem to run considerably slower. You may want to this is a primary one. If you go to change this 100 to 10, it'll run a lot faster and it'll give you a poorer model. So generally, a larger number of solutions here increases the fidelity of the model at the cost of computation time. So here we have a plot of the average error between the measured canopy height and what this model predicted for each of these locations. And this model was quite accurate. The max error seems to be 0.005% between these. And then once that's there, you can download that model if you want. When you download this, you're going to get all the individual sensor measurements plus, as a data frame, plus some extra columns which are the result of the model and then the accuracies of that model. And we can look, since this is what we're displaying here is the average across the season, then we may want to look in a particular day, how did canopy height compare to the model, for example. Or you can, these are the same types of queries that we did earlier in the app. So you can pick a day and any trait that you want. So here is the actual ground truth at day 50, and then we can say, hey, let me pick day 50, and instead of the ground truth, let me figure out here is what the per cultivar GBoost algorithm thought that location was supposed to be, thought the height was supposed to be at that cultivar location. So here's the display down here. Remember, it looped because of my smaller display. So we can, by hand, predict, here's the actual heights of the cultivars that were predicted. Here's the actual cultivars that were actually measured. So this allows you to explore the fit of this model more. So this is a very quick display going through all these apps, but it's been a pure joy to develop some of these ways to visualize the TERRA-REF data in unique ways, and really to the goal of understanding what is happening in these biological systems by exploring different ways of comparing, different ways of looking for correlation or contrast. It's been a pleasure to work with the TERRA-REF data and the team. Please feel free to reach back to us and if you have any questions from exploring this. Thank you.